could very well save your life.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. And don't worry, I don't work for the FBI. I just couldn't find my my screen glasses. I don't know what I did with them. But this will have to do. Hey, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Thanks for your continued support. All of you. She Warrior, Louise, everybody who's part of the Sleuth crew. Big shout out. All right. But today is about Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. I really don't know what to make of this case, you guys. I need your help on it. I mean, I can understand a man going crazy and doing something like this and then being reckless, being caught right away, and showing obvious signs of psychosis. But how do we have a man who obviously planned this out, committed these brutal murders with an escape plan? That's not psychosis to me. But what could cause a father to kill his children? The only thing I can think of is psychosis, or maybe a psychopath with a grudge, jealousy. But we don't see anything like that with this case. So what is it that we're dealing with? Like, who are we even looking for? He comes from a military family. We're going to see a news reporter kind of going back to his old neighborhood in Wisconsin. What's going on, She Warrior? Carla. That sounds wonderful. Definitely burn up here. Arizona's a great place to get a suntan. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so what you can expect from today's live stream, we're gonna do a case overview, semi-brief. We're gonna talk a little bit about geoprofiling, something that I've been trying to educate myself on recently, specifically for this case. So I've been doing a lot of reading on geoprofiling. So if we have any experts out there in geoprofiling, let me know. Hit me up, sleuthintuition@gmail.com. So we're going to try to geoprofile exactly where Travis Decker might be heading. We're going to do our best to track Travis Decker. And then we're going to look at the most likely scenarios for Travis Decker's location at this very moment. And then we're going to look at tricking the thermal cameras and the dogs. Remember, we're dealing with a very highly skilled individual here. That needs to be the main focal point or the foundation of our profile, whether it be geographical or criminal. Hang in there, Mark. Don't let the man get you down, brother. Bad actors, what up? How's it going? All right, so this will be a brief overview. Travis Decker, 32-year-old former Army Ranger. Now, remember, he comes from a military family. I think his grandfather was in the Special Forces, I believe. And he grew up, I think, around his grandfather, if I'm not mistaken. That information is important, stuff like that. A 32-year-old former Army Ranger and Washington National Guard member is accused of murdering his three daughters, Peyton, 9, Evelyn, 8, and Olivia, 5. During court-approved visitation on May 30th, 2025, in Wenatchee, Washington, The girls were found dead on June 2nd, 2025, near Rock Island Campground in Chelan County, suffocated with plastic bags over their heads and wrists zip tied. Why, man? Decker, who has been on the run since, faces 3 counts of first degree murder and 3 counts of first degree kidnapping. Yeah, that is going to be something we discuss. It is a possibility. That I don't know. Apparently, his mother passed away in 2023. That could have started the spiral. Seems to be like the trigger for this timeline of mental health. So I think that's why he might be heading to Wisconsin. Let's look at some of his previous addresses. So, of course, Wenatchee, Fort Benning, Georgia. But right here, which is very interesting, is where his mom's family's from, is Pewaukee. I think his father's too. I can't find a whole lot on his father. But his mother seems to be a very wonderful woman. She has a very unique smile. She seems very kind and sweet. So you got Richfield, Wisconsin, Pewaukee, Wisconsin, Pewaukee. So I have a feeling that might be where he's headed. Unless he's just going to stick close by, right? We're going to do the geo profile and try to come up with some answers on that, or at least some ideas. He may be close by. If he's this highly trained individual that I think that he may be, right? Hence the PTSD and whatever it is that's got him all kind of out of whack. He had to have been traumatized extremely, seen some things. So if we're dealing with this highly trained military guy, we need to try to take some of that training into account, right? Hiding from the thermals, hiding from the tracking dogs, hiding from the locals. He knows how to do all that. He's been trained in that. So we have Wenatchee, Richfield, Wisconsin, Pewaukee, Wisconsin, and Fort Benning, Georgia. And that's probably for military reasons. Not quite sure what that's all about. But he has it listed as January 2025. So I don't know. Is this something he did pre-planned? Don't know. What's up, Carla? My son, ex-husband, knew where they went, but wouldn't say. He was put in jail. His custodial parent. They were found, and the next day over, police called me. Yikes. What's up, Brad Lucas? He reminds me of the Unabomber type. Yeah. Where he can go from like normal looking to just kind of letting himself go, looking like a recluse. The Unabomber is a very interesting person. Very, very interesting. You know, he's basically your first Sarah Connor. He's a real life Sarah Connor. Even down to like the medical hospital. John, what's up? First of all, thanks for keeping the story alive. I do believe he is still in the area. Play been searching for the last 3 weeks. And that could be very possible. So we're going to try to do a geo profile. We're going to talk about what a geo profile is. And we're going to see, is he still nearby? I talk a lot about, when it comes to serial killers and killers in general, anchor points, right? When we find out a killer has multiple crime scenes, multiple victims spanning over a certain amount of time, there's usually an anchor point. You know, they might not choose the same location, but it's typically around the same distance away. Um, Something that in their mind, right, they're driving around trying to get from point A to point B. We all know here on the Sleuth Intuition channel what it means to go from point A to point B for these types. Point A is just being a normal guy living your life. Point B is getting to a sick, sadistic fantasy that involves torturing a victim, right? So the mouse starts spinning the wheel. All right, okay, I need to get from point A to point B, and it's all going to depend on the individual's intelligence, right? How do I get from point A to point B? How do I get my hands on somebody that I can sadistically torture or fulfill some kind of sick fantasy? But with this guy, that's not really what we're dealing with. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what's motivating him. You know, we talked about psychosis early on in the case, you know, but he's not reckless. He's not, he doesn't seem like he's out of his mind. You know, where he's hearing audible voices or having hallucinations, things of that nature. So I'm not quite sure what we're dealing with here. Remember, there was some pre-planning, some talk about escaping to Canada, but I think that that was a decoy. Decker's ex-wife, Whitney Decker, had raised concerns about his mental health, including PTSD and instability, leading to restricted visitation rights in 2024. He was reportedly homeless, living out of his truck or campgrounds. Evidence suggests he planned the act, with prior internet searches about moving to Canada and signs of mental deterioration, including erratic behavior and car accidents days before the murders. So I think with that, let's watch body cam footage. And this was just days before the crime. So this is going to give us a good idea of what he looks like. What he looks like, what he sounds like, what his mannerisms are, even his gait. So pay close attention if you're in this area. Idaho, Washington, Wisconsin, anywhere in between. Even Canada. Keep a lookout for this guy right here.
Everybody was rolling and everything was going, and all of a sudden I hit him. I wasn't on the accelerator. I was still just getting my foot off the brake. I don't know how all of a sudden it felt like he was sitting at a stop.
Light was green.
Light was green. All the other cars were rolling. Air registration.
Okay.
Sorry if I was jacked up.
No big deal. Where are you at now?
I'm kind of in transit.
Okay. Where do you get mail right now?
In transit.
I am receiving it at the Armory over here in Wenatchee.
Just so you know, you'll probably get a ticket in the mail for having no insurance. So we're required to do that if we respond to an accident.
Am I going to jail tonight?
Oh, no, you won't go to jail for it. That's an infraction. That's not a criminal offense.
Okay, real quick. Does it appear as if he wants to go to jail? Like maybe he was trying to go to jail? Because there is some information that states that he may have been part of a hit and run prior to this, right? Where he hit another vehicle, or is this just part of a byproduct of his mental health, like kind of nodding off while he's driving, not paying attention, daydreaming, and he just continues to crash? But he keeps asking, am I going to go to jail? And he's almost asking, like, what would it take for me to go to jail? Or is he just being overly paranoid and continuing to add on to his stress, right? He just keeps manifesting the stress monster bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So is he just looking for more reasons to kind of get down on himself? Like, oh, you know, I'm homeless. Now I've crashed. I don't have any insurance. I don't want to go to jail. I can't pay my insurance. That's going to, suspend my license. If I can't pay this ticket, they're going to suspend my license. And, that just adds to the heartache and the turmoil and the trouble that I'm going through. And on top of that, I have my daughters. So how is this all tied back to his 3 girls? Whatever it is that he's going through.
If I didn't have a license and I was driving, would I go to jail?
It depends.
I'm just curious. I don't know this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so it depends. Like,
What happens if it's suspended?
that's a crime. Yeah,
Can you go to jail for it?
you can.
Depending on
It depends on the situation.
life.
Or is he just trying to act normal? Asking all these weird questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a better day.
They're all great days.
What's that?
I said they're all great days.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
man.
be safe out
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
I found that very strange. They're all great days. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he was trying to go to jail. He keeps crashing into people. Is he trying to get himself locked up because he knows that he's going to harm somebody? What's up, Eli? Oh, it was good. It's always good. These are revenge killings. Let me remove that. These are revenge killings. He wants his ex-wife to suffer and also to live in fear that he's still alive and hasn't been caught. Yeah, that is scary, but she doesn't seem like she's afraid. She feels like the military screwed him up pretty good and that he's a victim of that. So I don't know if that's an out. I just don't understand how he can do what he did and be not completely out of his mind. Like, how is he still cold and calculated? How is he not just some stumbling fool running around the streets naked at this point? Like, how do you do what you do and you're still so evasive? You know what I mean? You're not just walking around like wishing somebody would take you out of your misery. You're literally playing like you're John Rambo in First Blood or something. Let me share this map with you guys. Then I'm going to finish this overview for you. So this is kind of the area. Well, not kind of. This is the actual where the crime scene was. Crime scene location. Rock Island Campground. I mean, this is definitely like a vast wilderness. You could hide up there. Think about it. All he has to do is hide from the thermal cameras and keep from leaving his everywhere. And then he can hide from the dogs. Plenty of water down there. I'm sure he even has maybe some of his own materials that he's using. He knows how to do that. So he could still be right there within 30 miles of the crime scene. And law enforcement, the dogs, everything, they could have walked right over him. I could even see him kind of going underground, literally, digging a hole or something and just hiding in there. Otherwise, he's dead. That could be the case. Bad actors. Aren't there companies that will hire vet? Like Lowe's, there has to be a mental break. Yes. And I thought it was going to be something like psychosis. Usually that's what happens. Like a month prior before it gets really bad, you start struggling at work, you start seeking counseling. Because you're trying to figure out what it is that happened. So you're trying to work through it. but eventually it gets so bad that it's such a burden on you at that point. You don't want to put that burden on anybody. So you start to separate from all your friends, you start to not show up at work, and you want to get away. A lot of people who suffer from psychosis will travel as far as they can on foot, and if they come into a small town or a city, they'll just be homeless there. A lot of people are found years down the road, just being homeless, not being under any type of time restraint or scheduling or anything, just left there to whatever it is, their ailments. That's not what I'm seeing here. This guy did some pre-planning. I mean, why didn't he just leave his kids at home? Why did he take them? So there is a little bit of that feeling of revenge. Fishing, yeah, maybe lock me up. Like I feel like I might be a danger, because apparently he had crashed into somebody else and did like a hit and run. So maybe he was hoping they would get his license plate and then lock him up for doing a hit and run, but they couldn't tie it to him. They just had the vehicle description. And then he does the same thing, rear ends this guy. But apparently, in one article that I read, he was yelling at the guy that he hit, not yelling, but pleading with him not to call 911. So I don't know if that helps you make your decision on that. But he was saying, please don't call 911. So I don't know if he was just panicked. He can't even drive anymore. Like whatever this condition is, it's getting so bad. He can't even focus on the road. Can't pay his insurance. He's homeless. Like, what is he doing with his kids? I don't understand how that happened. I just hope that this is a wake-up call for a lot of people. If you see that your child's parent is literally going out of their mind, that's not a good time for you to put them in that person's care. Because even law enforcement will show up, and I think they can do like amateur evaluation. Welcome in, Patricia. Yes, they need a negotiation with him because the vet and PD needs to get him the proper treatment. But I mean, I just don't know. I really don't know what we're dealing with. I just don't know how somebody could do this to his own beautiful, anybody, right? Let alone his own beautiful children. You just assume he's got to be out of his mind. But when you're looking at what this person's doing, it doesn't match with that. It doesn't match with like psychosis. It matches with like, is it possible that it's like a mild case? Maybe in and out? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what we're dealing with here. She was court ordered and she seemed fine that day. I don't know. If you're living in the woods and you're homeless and you're not paying your car insurance, I don't give a shit if it's court ordered, honestly. I'm not giving my kids to a homeless person who's acting erratic. So somewhere around this area here, Icicle Forest Service. Well, I just hope that they're not covering a certain area and saying, okay, well, we got this area covered. Because he has knowledge of avoiding the thermal cameras and evading the dogs. And he can be doing all of these things at the same time. John says his life was falling apart. He had no money. He isolated himself. He had no friends. He has nowhere to go. He's still in the area. Only 2 sightings in the last 2.5 months. I don't even know if there was any legit sightings. I watched an interview earlier today with the guy who was the false sighting. right? They thought it was him. He didn't even really look like him. He was a little more husky. I'm sure the military and FBI can get him out. What I'm hoping is that there's some activity going on that we don't know about. You know, certain maybe like a military unit looking for telltale signs of evasion. I mean, look at this area, the mountains. He could be anywhere. All right, let's continue on here with the overview. A multi-agency manhunt involving the U.S. Marshals, FBI, and local authorities continues across Washington and Idaho, with the possible sighting in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest in July 2025. Decker's military survival skills make him adept at evading capture in rugged terrain like the Cascade Mountains. The case has sparked debate over custody laws and mental health support, with calls for reform like Caden's law to prioritize child safety. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, what about evading detection in the mountains? Like I said, this area is very vast. Wow. And the crazy thing is he has everything he needs up there. Hey, Pitbull, good to see you. Carla says divorce and custody battles can often become dangerous, but in this case, all visitation should have been court order halted till dad was stable. I agree with that. Um, Kind of, it always reminds me of the red wine case, the Dylan red wine case, and he was killed by his father, Mark. Well, shortly before he was murdered, there was a hearing. Mark was on the right, Mark's wife was, or ex-wife was on the left, and Dylan did not want to go with Mark Redwine. He was kicking and screaming, and his mother was pleading, "Please, judge, please do not." And Mark didn't even want him. He was just fighting to spite her because he was a wicked man. You know, there is wickedness among us, right? People just looking to target you, right? They just want to make a target out of you so that they can do bad things because that's what their heart wants to do. They're looking for a reason to let the evil out. Eli, he's deceased. This is interesting because it's really one of two. Well, it could only be one of three things. One, he's traveling to a location that we weren't aware of, right? Two, he died, and eventually hopefully they'll find his body. But thirdly, he could be right there within that anchor point, because we all know that there's only so much resources the city state can put towards a search like this. I think they've already backed off. So if he's hiding in the location that they've already searched, there's a good chance he's just there hunting, fishing, creating elaborate tunnels. You know, who knows what this guy's doing? Yeah, I just don't get it. Usually with these cases, you know, when it involves the parents or family annihilators, they're caught right away. You know, it's not some elaborate scheme. This seems very sophisticated and pre-planned. Okay. In the Washington, Idaho mountains, Decker likely uses his survival training to avoid thermal cameras and tracking dogs. For thermal evasion, he could hide in the dense forests, caves, or cold streams to mask his heat signature, possibly using insulating materials like mylar blankets to evade dogs. He might cross streams to break scent trails, use pine sap to mask his odor, or travel downwind to avoid detection. The rugged terrain, with its rocky ridges and weather patterns like rain or snow, aids his ability to remain hidden. Okay, so that's it for a quick overview. Next, we're going to learn a little bit about geographic profiling, or better known as geoprofiling, and what that is. Jeez. I mean, there's water everywhere. Look how dense this forest is. He could set a trap right here, live in the side of a hill over here, come out and grab his trap at night. No fire, maybe just a fire during the day, or maybe even has a way of masking the smoke. I believe they do train you on how to do that. John, that's right. You know, how many interrogations are we going to watch, where they finally confess and they say, well, before this happened, I was going to take my own life, but I was too much of a coward. The majority of sadistic killers say that. They have an impulse issue. They have no soul. They look at human beings as objects, these sadistic killers. They have no care for humanity at all. It revolves around them and how they feel and what they're contributing to their own ego. Most of them can't bring themselves to do it. They know they should. They know that they're evil. They know that killing is wrong. They know that sadism is evil. Yet it's what they crave. They can't control themselves. And a lot of them wish that they could take their own lives. But like you said, they're cowards. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could make it right here. I don't know how brutal the winter is. But if I had all summer to prepare, I think I could. With this type of water source, but for how long, You'd have to do some serious hunting, smoke with the food, a lot of trapping. So you would have traps everywhere. There would be signs that you were there, right? You'd have to bury your food, hide it up high in trees. There would definitely be telltale signs that somebody was living there. Maybe some paths, some snares. I don't know. Those are the things that I would be keeping an eye out for. Somebody that's living off the land. I would even be looking for maybe some random fishing traps. You can even make really crude ones out of sticks. You get enough sticks and you make a trap where you let the water flow in through a narrow opening and then give them a larger space once they make it through the opening to kind of swim around. They get trapped that way. I mean, anybody could do that. Okay. Geographic profiling, is a statistical technique used to analyze the spatial patterns of crime scenes to predict the most likely location of an offender's residence or operational base. In this case, we're going to try to figure out where he's headed. Where did he make his new base? It relies on principles like the distance decay hypothesis. Offenders tend to commit crimes near their home or familiar areas. And the buffer zone concept. Offenders avoid committing crimes too close to their residence to avoid detection. Right? Think of the Delphi murder case. Remember the FBI profiler? What did he say? Why Delphi? Why Abbey and Libby? Why the Monon High Bridge? Because if you reverse engineer a crime scene, it'll point to the killer. Everything about the crime scene, the location, everything, even if it's subconscious, is pointing at the killer. I think investigators are just trying to do their best to decode that, to decipher the code. What is the crime scene telling me? They're trying to decipher that code. Because even the fact that let's say Richard Allen, for example, picked Delphi. Why Delphi? Well, he selected that location because he's familiar. He's an opportunistic killer. He's not somebody who's pre-planning or anything. So that's why he's close to home, but far enough away from his actual residence. So that would be his distance. That's his anchor point. But why Delphi? Why the Monon High Bridge Trail? Because he's familiar with it. He lives in the area. He frequents that area. He crosses that bridge. Things like that. That's why he decided to do it there. Good to see you, Barbara. Hey, Red Queen, working and lurking. Have a good day. Don't let the man get you down. Don't let the man get you. I can't make any sense of it. All right. So offenders avoid committing crimes too close to their residence to avoid detection. In the case of Travis Decker, wanted for the murder of his 3 daughters in Chelan County, Washington on June 2nd, 2025, geoprofiling can help hypothesize his likely location or movements, though his status as a fugitive with survivalist skills complicates the process. I'll apply geoprofiling principles to Decker's case using available data. Hold that thought. Nothing. Okay, so geoprofiling Travis Decker. Now, this is going to be amateur hour, but we'll do our best. It's a good point, John. There's a guy here in Arizona who killed his family. He's been on the run too. I'm going to do a story on him soon. He's been on the run for like 20, 30 years. Up in the White Mountains. They believe he's still alive. I guess he still leaves traces. Figured out a system. And who knows what he looks like now. Thank you, Sense. Good to see you, by the way. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Sleuthintuition@gmail.com, Barbara. What's up, Victoria? All right. So let's take a crack at this. Crime scene location, the Rock Island campground. Let's take a closer look. And it's near Leavenworth. So maybe he's over here somewhere. A lot of resources here, right? He can kind of stay up in the mountains, and then during the nighttime he can come down here and commit crimes, petty larcenies and things like that. Maybe even Grand Theft Auto. But I just don't know. I just don't see him leaving all of these resources to go somewhere with less resources, right? If he needs a small city, it's nearby. If he needs water and rough terrain, he's got it. He's got everything he needs right here. I think it's possible he's still here. I think he might have been able to evade detection, going underground, using his military training to avoid thermal cameras and to throw off the dogs. Actually, it looks like I have some coordinates here, but I'm sure there's somewhere right here. We don't need to focus on exactly where the crime scene was. I'll save that for my off-camera stuff. Last known sighting. Decker was last seen on May 30th when he picked up his daughters in Wenatchee, approximately 10 miles south of the crime scene. His truck was westbound on Highway 2 that night. Cold Chuck Lake, Enchantments, June 2025. Hikers reported a lone individual, possibly Decker, near this alpine lake, who fled when spotted by a helicopter. The trail led to Ingalls Creek Trailhead south of Leavenworth. Ingalls Creek Trailhead. Have to find out where that is. Sawtooth National Forest, July 5th through 10th. A family reported seeing a man matching Decker's description in the Bear Creek area, but it was not him. There's an interview with him on Fox, I think, as well. Pacific Crest Trail. Snoqualmie Pass, August 1st through 4th. So this is pretty recent. A tip suggested Decker was near Snoqualmie Pass, about 55 miles east of Seattle, but the search found no trace. How would they know that? Let's pull some of these up. Snoqualmie Pass. Snoqualmie? Snoqualmie. Okay, so let's take a look. Rock Island Campground to Snoqualmie Pass. Oh, yeah, that's not far at all. 36-hour walk. So this would have been the crime scene area. That's not far at all, guys. He could have even taken a shorter path, right? He could have gone straight through. What does he want here if he is here? Just to kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's still staying close by, right? So he's traveling west. Maybe he's going to Mount Rainier. Okay, so that's the Pacific Crest Trail. Decker, a 32-year-old former U.S. Army infantryman, has survivalist training, including navigation and off-grid living, surviving 2.5 months in the backwoods. So this is nothing. It's nothing new. He's already been doing it. He researched moving to Canada days before the murders, suggesting intent to flee north, possibly via the Pacific Crest Trail, which is 11 miles from the crime scene and 170 miles from Canada. Decker was homeless, living out of his truck or in motels and campgrounds, indicating familiarity with the Wenatchee Valley and surrounding wilderness. I don't think he wants to leave. If you're trying to hide, what better cover than these mountains in this rugged terrain? All you have to do is evade thermal cameras and keep from getting tracked by those dogs. And don't let any of the locals see you. So what he's probably done is become nocturnal. He doesn't do anything during the day. He sleeps during the day. And at night, he wakes up and does whatever it is that he needs to do. Reset his traps, sneak into town, sneak into campsites, go hunting, things like that. So I believe he would probably be nocturnal, right? How else are you going to keep from being spotted by hikers and campers? This area is, probably a hot for outdoorsmen and women. Well, actually, we are bad actors. Us as a team. The area is Enchantment Pass Peaks. There's about 20 lakes accessible by snow lake trails off Highway 76 Alpine Lake Wilderness. I think this place is ideal. It could be even the reason why he did it there, right? Why he committed the murders right there. He can commit the murders for what, I don't know what his motivation is. I don't know if he was at, if he goes in and out of psychosis. I'm just not quite sure. But he has everything he needs here. It's just people need to start looking out for signs of trapping and hunting, strange going ons at night. If I were these park rangers, I might even set up a few different, maybe some cameras throughout this area. Some deer cams. Maybe right through this valley. Maybe in a couple of these valleys out here. But this is the one that's directly underneath the crime scene. So really, all he would have to do is kind of go out of the perimeter, the search perimeter, and then and just kind of observe them from a distance. And then once he sees that they've kind of calmed down, or he sees a report on the news that they've stopped searching that area, then maybe he can go back in towards that direction. Or maybe that's what they're hoping for. Like, yeah, we're done searching, but really they're just waiting. Son says to hurt his wife. So you believe this is motivation is revenge? I just didn't get those vibes from reading her comments. You know, she was very sensitive to what he was going through. So I feel like she feels he's out of his mind. So if he is completely out of his mind, then that means that he's dead and then he's been dead. But if they find him some distance away, you know, that tells another story. Let's see. His mental health issues, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and lack of recent financial activity suggest he may be avoiding urban areas. So at some point, he's going to get desperate. Can he lean on his skills? Can he lean on his survival skills to get him through? Or does he need to get closer to civilization and maybe try to get his resources there? You know, petty theft, breaking into cars, things like that. Victoria, do you still think they're looking for him? Yes, I do. If I don't know, what I would do is put together a small team, people who know how he thinks, have have similar training, and know what to look for. Like if he's hiding or evading the thermal cameras and the dogs, um, we know what that looks like, right? Because we know how to do it. We trained him how to do it. So hopefully they have a group, maybe even liaisons with local law enforcement who are training them, educating them on what to look for. But I'm pretty sure they have a very sophisticated, smaller team that's out there operating. People who are willing to risk a broken leg, because your average volunteer, they can't hike up into these mountains. Maybe a few of us could, right? Because we have experience. We're avid outdoors people. But not everybody's going to be able to do that. Even law enforcement, FBI, you need people who are trained and not only but physically able to do these things. So I'm assuming there's a small team out there, probably doing, I don't know, probably living exactly like he is, I would assume, right? Just walking through the woods, looking for signs, trails, telltale signs. I hope, I hope that that's what they're doing. Cindy, what's up? I think it's possible he killed them to save them from this. That's what I was thinking this morning. Save them from the cruel world he's living in. He is completely unstable mentally. That's what I was thinking earlier today. I was like, is that what he's thinking? We're dealing with psychosis without law training. Just because you're under psychosis, does that mean that you lose all your skills and your ability to implement those skills under that that paranoia? So maybe that's my ignorance. But yeah, right. His world is falling apart. He doesn't want the same fate for his girls. Good comment. Great comment. Going to K himself, he would have done it by the girl. Yep, that's a good point. Like together. Romeo and Juliet, Great minds think alike. All right, let's continue on here. Okay, distance decay. Decker's crime occurred near Wenatchee, where he lived and was familiar. His truck's presence at Rock Island Campground suggests he operated in a known area, likely within a 10 to 20 mile radius of his operational base, his truck, or temporary shelters. Okay, the buffer zone. Decker likely avoided committing the crime too close to his exact residence, his truck, or campsite, to reduce immediate detection. The campground's proximity to Wenatchee, which is 10 miles, suggests a buffer zone of a few miles. As a fugitive, Decker's movements deviate from traditional geoprofiling, which assumes a fixed residence. His survivalist skills and intent to flee to Canada shift the focus to transit routes on foot. And that's why you guys see that I've selected travel on foot. I don't believe that he's, would have stolen a car, because I don't think he has anywhere to go. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's at home in the woods. That's where he wants to be, all alone, right? Where he can't inflict. If it is psychosis, he doesn't want to inflict any of this grief that he's feeling onto anybody else. That's typically what I've seen with cases that involve psychosis, if not all confirmed cases. Son says, I would like to hear from soldiers that served with him overseas. So would I. We could go to a video right now. We can hear from one of his neighbors.
Since his 3 daughters were found murdered, that news sent.
Can you guys hear that? So TMJ4 interviews one of his neighbors that knew him and his entire family. And pretty interesting. Let me know if you guys can hear it, and then I'll play it. Sensei, if anything, he could hone in on his skills, especially suffering PTSD, trauma, and survival mode. He knows he has skills. Yeah, could kick into the survival. Good point. Could just come natural, right? Not even thinking about it. Like, oh, I'm on the run. I need to implement my military skills. It's just, no, I have skills. I'm going to use them. Thank you, Sensei.
Shockwaves through this quiet Pewaukee neighborhood where neighbors say they knew him and his family.
So he's from Pewaukee, Wisconsin. That's where she's at right now, getting ready to interview some of his neighbors.
Neighborhood where neighbors say they knew him and his family as kind and great at sports.
This is how Travis Decker's neighbor thinks of him, a young, happy teenager who loved sports.
We always got along great with the kids and the whole family. They're great at football and wrestling.
Decker's neighbor, who doesn't want to be identified because Decker has not been arrested, says he knew 3 generations of the family, starting with Travis Decker's grandfather. He said Travis's dad served in the military.
Troy was in special forces that boys stayed.
Oh, his dad was in special forces. So his grandfather was in the military and his dad was in special forces.
Then Travis Decker went on to serve in the U.S. Army as well. The Washington Military Department says Decker has special skills and training that would make it hard for him to be found.
My own opinion is he's out in the woods someplace trying to get away.
He's also extremely athletic, competing at the highest level, according to his neighbor. Decker competed at state and wrestling and played JV varsity football at Pewaukee High School as a sophomore. He has not seen Decker in about a decade, but knew he left to serve in the Army in 2013. The military says Decker transferred to the Washington National Guard, but stopped attending mandatory drills about a year ago. His ex-wife told police he was experiencing some mental health issues, and court records show he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Decker's neighbor believes something must have happened because he could never believe that the teen he watched grow up would be capable of murder.
Evidently not in his right mind. He just can't be to kill 3 little girls.
I reached out to the Wisconsin State Patrol.
Oh, this is interesting. Look, Pewaukee police and everybody in Wisconsin, nobody in that state is even looking for him.
Waukesha County Sheriff's Office and the Pewaukee Police to find out if any of the agencies are helping in the search. None of them said that they were.
They're not even looking for him there in his hometown. So for me, like, that would be a given, right? If you want to be near, because you could have 2 anchor points. If you're trying to drop your anchor, typically it's going to be somewhere you're comfortable with. So maybe he hasn't dropped that anchor yet. So he might still be headed to Wisconsin. Maybe he did steal a vehicle, took a family hostage, or he's just hucking it on feet. All right. Because of time, we're going to skip a couple of these notes. Let's go to most likely scenarios for Travis's location. Okay. Remote wilderness in Washington or Idaho is the most probable. So somewhere in this area. Decker's military training, U.S. Army, Washington National Guard, and survivalist experience, including living off-grid for 2.5 months previously, make it likely he is hiding in the rugged terrain of Washington's Cascade Mountains or Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest. Areas like the Enchantments, Blewett Pass, or the Pacific Crest Trail are focal points of the search due to their proximity to the crime scene at Rock Island Campground and reported sightings. His familiarity with navigation, hunting, and foraging suggest he could sustain himself in these areas, possibly using abandoned cabins or natural shelters. I think that he's going to he could easily create his own shelter. It's really not that hard, guys. You can just dig out the side of a mountain, dig a little fire pit with a hole coming out of the side of the hill, and then cover the entrance. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office and U.S. Marshals have focused on these regions, with searches in Blewett Pass and PCT yielding inconclusive evidence, like footprints and items. A July 2025 sighting in Idaho's Bear area, though unconfirmed, aligns with his ability to cross state lines into remote areas. The terrain's inaccessibility and Decker's ability to avoid detection, moving at night, altering his appearance, make it plausible he remains hidden in these areas. However, the lack of confirmed sightings since May 30th and the scaling back of searches on July 28th suggest he may be deeply entrenched or no longer in the immediate area. He could be in a less searched part of the Wenatchee National Forest or along the PCT, leveraging his skills to evade drones and K9 units. Honestly, my gut is telling me he's still here. I think I would place him within 30 miles. You could easily walk 10 miles in one day. Just start walking nonstop. Boom. I can't make sense of it, son. I can't wrap my head around it. You know, we do our best to try to, as amateur profilers, to try to figure out what's going on with these folks so that we can better see them coming and protect our own families, or even ourselves from becoming a victim of like mental health or mistreatment. Or because I mean, I'm pretty sure that people who are suffering from psychosis who commit murders, the majority of them may not even know that they're doing it, or aren't really sure why they're doing it. So I would never want to get to that point, you know, to where it's not even in my hands anymore. It might be my body, but it's not me. So not only do we want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our family members, our friends, and just try to understand it, really. It's just crazy that these things are still happening, and there's no way for us to predict it, to see it coming, to prevent it. All right. Now let's get to your guys' theory, and I think this is a good one. I've visited this theory a few times that it's possible that he's deceased in the wilderness. I think that's a significant possibility, right? Authorities, including Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison, have acknowledged the possibility that Decker is deceased. Given the lack of evidence, he is alive and the harsh conditions of the Cascades. By June 25th, 2025, parts of the manhunt shifted to a recovery effort with cadaver dogs searching rivers like Icicle Creek and areas like Tenaway Valley. Decker's mental health struggles, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and the emotional weight of his alleged crimes could have led to suicide or death by exposure in the rugged terrain. So I think we're going to stop this right here. I think we're going to make this a part 1. So this will be our 10-minute warning. Let's spend the next 10 minutes just kind of talking about what we think, areas that we didn't bring up, things that we haven't looked at. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell icon, join the sleuth crew. We keep it pretty chill, I think. For the most part. Some of my military friends think he has left the area, but I think he is still there. Yeah, if he's out of his mind, he just wants to be away from the city. He wants to be away from humanity. He might be on some doomsday shit. We don't know. Never forget the day bells. Yeah, he's definitely switched up his outer appearance. So if you live in that area, that's what you should be looking for. Signs of survivalist, bushcraft. You know, people just with a rugged exterior, maybe hunting and trapping out there illegally. Yeah, he could be dead, but I think he's more likely evading capture. I think he's found a way to hide from the drones and the helicopters that are carrying those thermal cameras. I think he's taken steps to evade that. Not to mention the dogs. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Right, evading thermal cameras. The dense forest and rocky outcrops in the Washington-Idaho mountains provide natural cover. Decker could hide under thick tree canopies, in caves, or behind boulders, which blocks or diffuse heat signatures. Evergreen trees, common in this region, are particularly effective at masking heat due to their density. The mountains, especially higher elevations, are often cold, particularly at night and in early morning. Decker could use this to his advantage by moving when his body temperature is closer to the ambient environment, reducing his thermal signature. He might wrap himself in insulating materials like mylar blankets, or even local materials like pine boughs to further blend in. If snow or streams are present, common in these mountains, even in summer at higher elevations, he could use them to mask his heat. Submerging in cold streams or rolling in snow could lower his external temperature, making him nearly invisible to thermal imaging. Thermal camouflage. If he has access to gear, he might use a thermal camouflage net or a survival blanket to cover himself while stationary. These are lightweight and plausible for someone on the move in this region. Yeah, I think it's possible, Barbara. He had been looking for frog suits and survival stores. They keep you dry, hide your heat signature. Got to hide for it. Could ever dog one time. That dog went everywhere. I went and found me. Cadaver dog, and everywhere I went, that dog went and found me. Oh, you got to participate in the exercise? That's fun. Yeah, to see those dogs work is very interesting. Joseph, I think you left the area, man, that Canada was to throw them. I think so too. Frog suits can also hide scent. He can crawl under any log. He needs water sources to drink to survive. Yep, and he's going to have to boil it too. So if he's drinking water, he's boiling it, unless he has like something else, another way to do it. You can use the sun. You know, if you use a bag, put water in a bag and leave it in the sunlight. But still, you're leaving something reflective out in the light, you know. You can make a crude filter. You know, dirt, sand, ash, sticks, leaves. But I don't know if that's going to cut it this long. Eventually, he's going to get sick unless he can somehow build up an immunity. I wouldn't say near, Joseph. It really depends on what you mean by near. I'm thinking somewhere within 30 miles. You know, in between a 30 and 50-mile range. I'm thinking closer to 20, more in between a 20 and a 30-mile range. Because I think if he's using his mind, I think he might want to move in and out of the search perimeters, right? He moves just outside of the search perimeter, and unfortunately, a lot of missing people who are deceased, you know, before the search even begins, are found just outside the perimeter. I'm talking like 10, 20 feet outside the perimeter that was created by the search team. So he might be bouncing back and forth. He could go outside the perimeter, and then when he knows that they're expanding, he can go move back into the perimeter. Decker has an abundance of clean water source. Damn. Yeah, then I mean, he could survive out there forever. The telltale signs are going to be during the winter, right? We're going to be looking for smokestacks, people burning fire. Might be easier to find his trails, especially if he's trapping animals with snares or something like that. But then again, he could just move along the game trails at that point. All right, we'll finish with this. Evading tracking dogs. Scent disruption with the terrain. We've all seen those prison escape movies, right? Where they try to run through the water and keep the bloodhounds from tracking them. So the region has numerous streams, rivers, and lakes near the Cascades or Selkirk Mountains. Decker could wade through water for long distances to break his scent trail, exiting at unpredictable points to confuse dogs. Rocky terrain. Moving across rocky ridges or scree fields where scent doesn't linger well would make tracking difficult. The granite and basalt common in these mountains leave less scent residue than soil. The mountainous terrain often has strong shifting winds. Decker could move downwind to keep his scent from reaching dogs or use high wind areas to disperse his scent trail. He could use natural scent masking. The area is rich with pine, fir, and cedar trees. Rubbing himself with pine needles or sap could mask his human odor with the forest's natural smells. Wildlife sense. The presence of wildlife like deer, elk, or bears means Decker could use animal droppings or remains to further disguise his scent, blending into the environment. Yep. Or those emergency straws. Those are actually pretty effective for a few uses anyway. My son was found 184 yards from where he made a 911 call. Yeah. Did he get lost? I think he had this plan for a while. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know what to make of this guy. I can't put my finger on it. I can't figure it out. Like, I don't know what's driving him. But I do like what Cindy had to say. That he may have felt he was sparing his girls from this wicked world, you know? So he could be out of his mind. It was my ignorance just to assume that because he's out of his mind right now, that he's unable to implement his skills to the best of his ability. So I think that might have just been my ignorance. So maybe survival is kicking in and he's not thinking about using his skills. He just knows that he has them and he's implementing them. Yeah, that place is filled with resources. He has everything he needs out there. The only thing is, if you're going to survive out there, you're going to leave a footprint. I'm not talking about your actual footprint. I'm just saying you're going to leave some kind of footprint. You're going to leave some kind of waste product. You're going to leave some type of remnants of a living structure, trails coming in and out of an area. Oh, Barbara, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know that he had passed. Sorry for your loss. Joseph, they already know he planned for a while because the cops saw the last couple months of his bank statements. There's evidence that shows this was planned for a long time. So then he could already have another location set up. He may have already had a destination that we don't know about. Pitbull, if he's still alive, I believe he's got the knowledge and experience to survive. With psychosis, I just don't know how he's dealing with the scene of his daughters. I don't know. It's possible he's feeling justified, like he did something good, right? Don't forget about the case of Allison Jones, who killed her son Maddox and shot her husband. She killed Maddox to spare his life from the torture of knowing that his father was the bridge guy, the Delphi bridge guy. She thought she was married to the Delphi bridge guy. Therefore, she killed her son Maddox, who was a very sweet boy, to spare his life, to do him a favor. So that could be what we're dealing with here. Good observation to Cindy Lean. He may have come back to reality, but he probably super paranoid, being the most wanted in the county. Got to be stressful. Like, how can you sleep? Do you think it's possible that he even knows what he did? Or knows that, like, he knows what he did, but wasn't really present when he did it? Or he woke up or something and realized, oh my God, what have I done? But Cindy's doomsday theory, I think, is the best. He was trying to spare them from this world that is collapsing on him. He's suffering so bad, he doesn't want them to go through it. I mean, that does sound like psychosis. He's sparing them what he's dealing with, which is probably audible voices telling him to hurt people, hurt himself, maybe even hallucinations. Okay. False trails, dropping scented items, a piece of clothing in areas with multiple paths, like trail junctions in national forest, could mislead handlers. Repellents, if he has supplies, scattering pepper or biodegradable deterrents in his wake could irritate dogs' noses. He'd need to be subtle to avoid alerting handlers. So if he's pre-planned this, he could have prepared for this, right? Hiding under thermal blankets and things like that. Okay, and his movement strategy, high ground. He's got plenty of high ground. That's what I'm saying. He can be just outside of the perimeter, and with binoculars, he can be observing what's going on. Helicopters flying around, people coming and going. He could even see when they leave the area, especially if he's hiding right there underneath their noses. Rain, common in the Pacific Northwest, washes away scent. Decker might move during or after rainstorms to minimize his trail. Snow, if present at higher elevations, could also bury his scent. Premeditated, so I don't think he as crazy as people think. Yeah, I think you might be right, Joseph, and that's the part that I'm struggling with. Psychosis versus calculated psychopath, right? Psychosis versus family annihilator, sadistic psychopath like a Chris Watts, right? He just doesn't care. I'm going to kill my family, everything that connects me to my wife and to the world, and then I'm going to leave the world behind. Or the civilized world, anyway. Right? There's nothing there for me anymore. Well, when this first happened, I sent him a message on Facebook, and his Facebook was active, and it says he has not checked his Facebook yet. So he hasn't logged back into Facebook. Yeah, that's tough. Ooh, that's a good thought right there, John. He's still in shock. He will return to the scene of the crime, trying to make sense of it. I like where you're going with that. That's interesting. Narcissist. Cindy Lean. All right, guys. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's all I had for you guys. We'll do a part 2 on this one. I say maybe next Monday. And if there's any updates on the case, I'll keep you guys updated on that. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can always shoot me an email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. And thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Big shout out to all my members, all my moderators, my subscribers, and people who, especially the people who share my videos. So I want to thank you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a safe rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon.
I rest my case.